But anyways, Dave, let's jump in and talk about the New York Knicks. Currently 8-7, just lost to the Toronto Raptors tonight. They're in the 9th seed, but they're tied with a lot of different teams. A lot of teams right now, 8-7. Plus, it's early in the year, only 15 games played for the New York Knicks so far, but they are exceeding expectations. Kristaps Porzingis looking like a god out there. He's looking absolutely ridiculous. 28 points, 7.3 rebounds per game. He's also averaging 2.15 blocks per game as well. Kristaps has been insane. Absolutely insane for the New York Knicks. And then you also have some young guys stepping up. Also, Enes Kanter has been huge. He's been stepping up defensively.
Honestly,
as well for Enes.
That was a surprise because Kanter was always the defense was always a knock on him.
Steven Adams was the defender, and then Enes was the offense.
Exactly.
And then he stepped up big, at least defensively. I don't know if that's due to Kristaps playing next to him, but
it definitely helps probably.
For some reason, Enes has just been hustling his ass off. He found a mean side
almost.
Yeah, he's been hustling his ass off. Maybe it's because of the problems Turkey was giving him.
It might just be.
Because he was about to get arrested. So doing hard time really did Enes Kanter some justice. But looking at him so far, Kanter's been great. Kristaps has been great. Frank has shown a lot of promise so far. Dougie has kind of found a spot as that sixth man for the New York Knicks. So taking all of this in, do you feel like the New York Knicks could possibly be a playoff team?
Oh, God, it pains me to say that they're not out of the race. And I know.
It doesn't pain you, but it's fucking weird saying.
Yeah.
Because last year we were like, all right, this team could be the all-star team of 2011, 2012.
It was such a bad.
And they might make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then they didn't because they were terrible.
Yeah.
And Phil Jackson was a moron, and Carmelo was a moron.
Yeah. And Joe didn't see the floor, and
he was
rightfully
injured.
so.
Derek was banged up.
Yep.
But looking at it and taking all of it together, now it feels like they got some mojo. Maybe this is just some Laker mojo like the Lakers had early on in the season last year. But ultimately, do you feel like at the end of the year when we get closer, the Knicks are fighting for a playoff spot?
I think they are. I think Porzingis has kind of grown into his own without Carmelo Anthony around. Like, he is the focal point, and this team runs very well with him as that. Tim Hardaway Jr. obviously got that contract back from the Knicks. And honestly, it's kind of a mixed result with him. Like,
he's been all right.
He gets the shots. He's a volume scorer. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, the big question with this team has been like, do we feel comfortable with the guard play? Do you like, what Frank's been doing for them? And do you feel like what is that big thing that's on everybody's mind is Joakim Noah, unfortunately, because his contract is kind of murdering them as far as their options are concerned. It's just $17, $18 million, and you got them locked down for another 2 years. It's uncomfortable.
It's bad. And you look at their contract situation, it's pretty reasonable, though. You got Kristaps for 2 more years, and then he becomes an RFA. Yep. You look at Joakim Noah, like Dave just said, that's the worst contract out there. 3 years for Joe, including this year, so 3 years, including this year, so 2 more after this. Enes has a player option next year for $18 million, so it's going to be interesting to see if he accepts that, waives that, what the deal with that is. Courtney Lee has 2 more years after this as well. He was signed with Joe, and then Tim Hardaway Jr. obviously just recently signed as well. But other than that, there's not any huge contracts looming over them. But looking at it, and this is one thing that Ricky wanted to bring up, what is the direction for this team next year? Because obviously the huge thing out there is LeBron might be leaving. Yeah. LeBron's calling himself the king of New York. Do you feel like they go out and try to make a big free agent splash and try to speed that process up? Because looking at Hornacek just said that they have a 3-year plan in place, and that's when they feel like they're really going to hit their stride. But don't you feel if they bring in a guy like LeBron or any big free agent name, whether it's Paul George or LeBron, whoever it is, do you feel like that kind of speeds this process up too much and they start pulling a Nick again and they're like, all right, now we got to win right away? I feel like that might be counterproductive of what they should be doing. Yeah,
I mean, you're absolutely right to have those concerns, and it's something that there's going to be a lot of questions going into the end of the year. I think it's going to depend heavily on how this team finishes. Like, they've started off with a lot of promise. I like the young talent. I think everything looks good for them right now. It's just if they're going to end as a playoff team, where does that now jump the expectations to? Because going into this year, we had them as probably like an 11 seed, a 10 seed. So if they can get into like 7, 8, now you're a playoff team. Now the expectation is, okay, great. Next year, are you going to make it out of the first round? Yeah. And then what can you do?
Are you going to jump up? Are you going to be a 5th or 6th seed?
Exactly. Like, the expectations will grow because Porzingis has jumped. He's made a huge leap coming off of his previous year, being the second fill to Carmelo. So if we're saying they're a playoff team at the end of this year, and if LeBron loses out, especially if he loses in like the Eastern Conference Finals or any time before the Warriors, and I'm just going to, Warriors is just easier to say than the championship, but I think there is no reason they shouldn't go after a player like LeBron James. They should go after any top talent out there. Look, New York was the mecca of basketball. It can be again. I love what they've been doing with these later picks, but there's no reason to shy away from the most talented players in the world. I think what you can't do, though, they have to avoid going after aging players on overpriced contracts and whiffing like the Lakers did in the past, where their timeline was so confused. They got not Porzingis. They got
remember when Porzingis was a Laker?
They got Mozgov and Deng and way overpaid, and now they had to bail themselves out.
Well, that was also something where they felt like they were going to be decent, at least contributors. They thought they were going to be decent mentors, and then also they were like, well, our timeline isn't that long. And then obviously that was just something where they were just so bad out there. They weren't even average.
But that's the thing. You have to avoid everybody made that jump for those large contracts, and then this past offseason was like back to earth, people. So I'm curious to see. I think honestly they're in great shape going forward. If they can get rid of Joe for some unknown way, do it. Don't give up a 1 this year, but give up a future or whatever it takes if you want to clear it that badly to get someone with top tier talent like LeBron.
I feel like they should just wait, because looking at Hornacek's first year as a Suns coach, they had a lot of success, 48 wins. They were the 9th team in the Western Conference, and then the next year you saw that fall down, and they started collapsing more. And then obviously Hornacek was let go, and then they brought in Earl Watson. That just kept rolling and falling worse and worse for Phoenix. And looking at it, again, I get worried about it just because they are having success right now, but then Kristaps, he's 7'3". He's a big dude out there. It's tough for big guys to stay healthy. And I'm just knock on wood, but
especially
it's
how
just
bad
the
he
truth.
flops out there too.
And then you also got to talk about Enes as well. I mean, he can't land right. Like he's landing straight on his ass.
Awful.
But you look at Enes as well, another big guy. Joe, another big guy who has a severe injury problem. And then you talk about the guard play. Frank, while he is very young, or while he is very promising, he is very young, and that worries me. And I feel like they shouldn't pull a New York Knick and go all in for one guy. And I know it's LeBron James. I'm not saying I just feel like you shouldn't push this process along, because you look at Frank, and right now he's still very young. He's growing, and if you think he is your future point guard, bringing in LeBron James, putting so much pressure on him is just going to be counterproductive of what you need to do, because it was kind of like with Kristaps and Carmelo, because now you're thinking that Kristaps needs to take this jump. He needs to keep improving. And you're looking at him like, well, why did we take this guy 4th overall? And you see the flashes, but he's not getting that time out there because you're trying to win. And I feel like you just need to slowly take this along and make sure that Kristaps is able to grow correctly. You're making sure that Frank is able to grow correctly, because this is, again, New York. And while it hasn't been the mecca of basketball, it is still a crazy media market out there.
It is, yeah.
And, it's a crazed fanhood as well. And if Frank has a ton of pressure on him, he's not performing, we don't know how he's going to react. We don't know how anyone's going to react. And just putting that together, while Frank did seem very composed when LeBron was there and LeBron was getting in his face,
I say
this snowballing of pressure might get to him. And that's one thing where I feel like you get Frank, you get Kristaps, you have a very young core. I feel like you just got to stick with that. And I know it's kind of ludicrous not saying, why aren't you going after LeBron James? But I feel like that just might hurt you. I feel like, LeBron is still old. I mean, he's 34 years old. I know,
but he's still in his prime.
That's the thing. But then again, you never know if he's going to get injured.
Yeah.
Because he's had a great bill of health. But what if he does get injured? So I just feel like you got to take it very slowly with the New York Knicks. I know that there's intense pressure in New York to succeed.
Yeah.
But I feel like right now they're over-succeeding, and now people are trying to change the expectations. The expectations to still stay the same for New York. I feel like you still should be rebuilding. You still should be going slowly along and just trying to be the best team out there that you can be, but not trying to add it and then rush ahead that timeline. And I feel like that's something where you look at the 76ers, they didn't do that. They didn't start rushing ahead, and I know they really didn't have anything to rush ahead because they were absolutely terrible.
They did just drop $20 million on JJ Redick.
But that was because they needed to hit the cap. They had that room, it's 1 year.
Yeah, I know.
But looking at it and taking it all
they
together,
actively
I feel
avoided.
like you just gotta slow it down. And I feel like you have Frank, he's your future point guard. You have Kristaps, he's your future star, he's your future 4. And then you have guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. at 3, who's a scorer, and obviously we know that. Enes, if you're able to keep him around, he's a great 5. And then you have the ability to go out and draft somebody and who can play that too. And maybe Doncic will be able to do that if you're that high and you start tanking. But yeah, right now their position is not
because
they're
put
them in the range of Doncic. But I'm just saying,
middle of the pack right now.
Yeah.
Like, if they miss the playoffs and have a draft pick, great, take it. The thing that I'm not concerned with, where you're saying is, don't take the focus away from what the future is, which is obviously Porzingis, possibly Frank, could be Hardaway. Like, that's good and that's all fine. But LeBron James doesn't do that. LeBron James makes the people around him better. And that's why I'm not afraid of bringing him in.
But he's not going to make Frank a better shooter. He's not going to make Frank...
he statistically makes everyone around him a better shooter.
But but the thing is, like, Frank is not going to be becoming Frank right now is not a scorer. Frank is not a scorer. He's not going to jump from right now like a 35% shooter from the floor and a fucking 25% shooter from 3 up to a 32% shooter from 3. Like, Frank, while he'll get more open looks with LeBron, it's not like he's going to be able to take that next step to be that third man. And I don't think Tim Hardaway is going to be that face to be that third guy either. I just feel like, again, you're putting too much pressure on all of this. And then again, you're going back to what Kristaps kind of didn't want, was with this whole Carmelo drama. He didn't want this drama.
I was saying Kristaps is an alpha and it's his team.
No, I'm just saying, like, he didn't want all this drama, and then bringing in LeBron is just going to bring more drama.
Yeah, well, that's fair, actually. And that's the thing. If you want to keep him happy, then it's one of those weird situations. You'll win more games if you bring in LeBron James. Mm-hmm. Your team should perform better on paper with LeBron James. Player happiness, question mark, because we've seen what Kyrie had, his feelings of playing under LeBron James' umbrella, his shadow. And another question would be, like, would doing this to Kristaps hurt him as well? And that's actually a fair concern in my mind. Like, I didn't even think of that until you mentioned it.
And I think it's just something too where the expectations, if you have LeBron James, isn't we got to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's we have to win a fucking championship. And if you're in New York and you have LeBron James, that's the damn expectation. And you're not going to be able to do that with this young core, and you're pretty much only going to be able to bring in LeBron next year, especially with Joe's contract, unless you're able to move Joe's contract.
Yeah.
So taking in all this, I feel like you just got to fear the future, fear Kristaps, fear Frank, and avoid LeBron James, and let him go to LA, let him go to Cleveland, because again, his time is going to run up at some point. LeBron's going to retire at some point. Kristaps still has a ton of years ahead of him. Frank still has a ton of years ahead of him. And even then, like, we don't exactly know where the Knicks are going to land. I feel like they're going to take a step back. I don't feel like they're going to be around the 8 or 9.
Do you feel like the 3-year plan is fair?
Well, 100%. Because Kristaps is going to be in his prime at that point. Frank is going to be 3 years older, and he's going to be hopefully your future point guard. Mm-hmm. Enes is still going to be young. I mean, Enes isn't going to be old and aging out there.
No.
Tim Hardaway's still going to be under contract. And then hopefully at that point you have the ability to have someone at that 2 position to be another scorer, to be another threat out there.
KCP is going to be available.
Yeah, KCP's going to be out there. But then again, I don't feel like they're going to be around that 8 or 9 seed. I feel like they're going to take a fall down, and maybe they'll be in that range to possibly take a Miles Bridges. Then you can move Hardaway over to the 2 and put Bridges at the 3.
I know you love Bridges, and you're saying that because of that, but I really do like that. That's an interesting...
I always had him mocked to a Knick as a Knick last year. I love the fit. Miles Bridges, put yourself in that Knick uniform, and I would be fucking fearing the future of the New York Knicks. But tell us what you think down in the comments below. What should the plan for the New York Knicks be? Should it be LeBron James? Should it be speeding up this process? Or should it be slow and steady? Should we be putting this on the crock pot?
TTP?
No, we can't. That's trademark.
I know, but like, you said the word process like 30 times.
Are we putting the Knicks? The process that's different. We're not trusting the process here. Are we going to put the Knicks in a crock pot, let it simmer, go to work, and just come back and have a delicious meal? Like, what's the plan?
Do they have enough talent?
Let us know in the comments down below. What should be the Knicks' move?